Hello, Jen here with a Stretch the Sketch video for you guys. This is going to be a 2-page spread using this month's sketch that you can see at the beginning of the video, and it was just on the corner and there on my screen. So as usual, I like to take the sketch and then kind of redraw my own version of it and just give myself an idea of how I want to interpret it. So the way that I thought that I would do it this month is basically just recreate the sketch as a 12 by 12 page and then cut it right down the center. So 6 inches of it are on one side, 6 inches are on the other side, and then I have 6 inches of a border on each page that I can kind of dress up and embellish. So I'm using my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit to do some Halloween pictures. These aren't actually Halloween pictures though. They're from last September. We have this really cool kind of outdoor park, farm market kind of place near where we live, and one of the climbing structures that the kids can play on is a giant spider's web. So these are actually pictures of that, but of course all of these papers are spider's webs. So this paper here is from Wild Whisper and it has that really cool spider's web. Or the other thing I thought that paper kind of looked like was a cracked window, so you could use it for that too. And then you can see in behind there I have some EK Success papers from a paper pad, and that's just a Halloween paper pad that I had. I probably got it at Michael's, and it's, oh my goodness, it's probably 6 or 7 years old, and it has those cute little spiders on it. So I'm kind of doing the whole Halloween thing, but I'm just gonna overload it with spiders. So I'm going to use the 2 orange papers as the border, I guess you could say, on either side of the page. So I'm just cutting them here. I didn't want to cut them right in half at 6 inches because that doesn't leave me a lot of space to stick my papers together. You'll see what I mean by that. I don't think I'm saying that very clearly. But this one I'm going to cut right at 6 inches. And I'm sticking pretty close to the sketch. I'm not diverging from it too much, other than I twisted my triangle around. So in the original sketch, the triangle goes the other way, and when I drew it, I thought that's how I was going to do it, but I realized I kind of like that the triangle starts on the first page and points towards the second page. I feel like that just made the 2-page layout seem a little bit more cohesive, if that makes sense. So there you can see I'm gluing my 2 pieces together. So it is 6 inches and 6 inches, but I just needed that few extra inches of orange paper to stick the 2 pieces together. So this is the right hand side, and I was just using my paper trimmer to get that 12-inch measurement right. Usually I use another piece of paper and just lie this on top, but I realized I had already cut all of my papers before doing that, so that's okay. I'm using my paper trimmer. They might not be perfect, but they're close enough. And so this is the left-hand side. And there it is when you put it all together. I think that looks kind of cool. So now I want to use this white paper, also from Wild Whisper. This is from their Halloween Night collection. And I want to use this punch. This is many years old as well. I got this when I was working at Michael's teaching classes. So it's been probably 6 years or so. This is one of those punches where you can do the straight lines, and then it also came with just the single punch that you could punch around corners, so you could actually carry the punch all the way around the edge of the paper. but I just like that it's that spider web, and I don't really get to use my punches that often, so I have them pulled out, and I'm trying my best to use them as often as possible. So I'm going to make a little border just to go on either side of that black paper with the triangle. And I just kind of like how this is white, so it gives a really nice contrast, and you can, see the clear kind of line between the two papers. And then it's also distressed a little bit and has some black in it, so it kind of blends in really nicely. So I'll just tuck that in like that on either side. And I think that looks good. And I like how this ends up working out, where I have a lot of space on either side of the sketch, the layout that is the sketch, to kind of play a little bit, and it's kind of open to anything I want, but then I still get to follow the sketch and play around with that too. So I think this is something I might do again. I wasn't liking the way that the pictures were lying on that triangle, so I decided to go ahead and use this pattern paper again with the spiders on it to kind of create a mat behind my photos. And in the sketch, actually, the way that the sketch is drawn, it kind of looks like it was 3 different pieces of paper. There was that central triangle is one pattern, and then the space above the triangle was another pattern, and the space below was a third pattern, or at least that's how I was interpreting the sketch. And because I'm not really doing that, I thought that this was a good way to kind of introduce that third pattern. And now it'll just be a little bit easier for me to span that whole kind of photo cluster across the 2 pages too, because that mat will hold those pictures in place. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned that little spider that I cut out there. That just came from, I think it was Joann, or it could have been Hobby Lobby. It was 2 years ago when we were in the States. And I just bought some bulk papers. I think they're just American Craft paper. And that was the only spider one, so that's the one that got picked, but it's still really cute. I kind of like it, and that's going to give me a perfect place for my title. Next up, I'm just going to scatter some embellishments all around. So you can see there, I'm pulling off a few of these really cute little pom-pom spiders. Those come from a sticker sheet from Jolie's Boutique, and I got that at Dollarama. Actually, they always carry that kind of stuff now. If you're kind of lucky and get in there when they just start putting out all of the seasonal stuff, you can usually find some of these. And then also those wood veneer. There's wood veneer spiders and wood veneer spider webs, and those come from Dollarama too. And I've been absolutely loving the wood veneer that Dollarama has out. It's good quality, it's nice and cleanly cut, and I just like that it's kind of a manageable size. There's just enough in the packs that I feel like I'm getting enough for my money, because I think that little package, you can kind of see it down in the bottom right hand corner. There's a little square box with a few little wood veneer in each of the squares. So I think you get 5 of each shape, and I feel like for $2 that's a really great value, but it's also not so big that I can't get through all of those different shapes in one season, or within a reasonable amount of time, so you don't have all of this stuff kind of hanging out in your stash, or you don't have one shape that you use a few times and then never use again. So I love that they're coming out with that kind of stuff. So I'm using obviously the spider web and the big spiders. And then the other spiders I have there are the text spiders, and those are actually just spiders that I punched out. I have a giant spider punch, and I am doing a DIY with some books. I'm going to have a video on that actually, so you can stay tuned for that. But with the leftover pieces of book pages, I decided to punch out a whole bunch of different shapes. So I have the big spider, and I also punched out some pumpkins and some banner shapes, and the book is a horror book, so I think it's kind of just my own little personal extra touch. Most people wouldn't know just by reading those spiders. There's not enough text on them to be able to tell what kind of book it is or what book it is, but I know that it's a horror book, so I kind of like that extra little touch. And I promise you, it's totally okay to be cutting apart books. I was telling some people earlier that I'm doing some pumpkin home decor and that I was going to film it to do a DIY video. And I had a few people go, "Oh, you can't cut up the books." But it's totally okay. They're not super special books. They're just mass market books. I got them at the thrift store. They've been well loved and they have been treated well, and I will continue to treat them well and respect them in their new form as some cool Halloween home decor and embellishments on my layouts. So, yes, it's totally okay. So instead of going for my normal sequins, I decided to pull out this giant pack of sequins. They're the same sequins material, but I think when I originally bought the pack, the little branding called this confetti. So you can sometimes find this in the seasonal section at dollar stores, Dollar Tree, stuff like that. But you can also often find it in the gift wrap section, because I think a lot of times they make these little packets of stuff to put in a card, and you know, when someone opens it, then all the confetti scatters all over. So when you're at stores like that, be sure to take a look there too, because sometimes they, even though it is a seasonal product, they put it in the card section or the wrapping paper section. I think that's where I found this, and I also think that's where I found all of the little sequin leaves that I use quite often. And the package is just massive. Like, I'm never going to be able to get through it all. It has those little spider webs, and it has those orange and red dots, and it has those starburst shapes, and it has skull and crossbone and bats and all kinds of things. In these close-ups, you can see that I sprinkled some white acrylic paint and some of that black ink as well. And then I also added that black border just by punching my spider web punch again. I felt like it needed that extra solid black on the edges just to kind of tie everything together and give it a nice border to finish it off. And that's it. That's my layout. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, you can leave them for me down below, and check out all of the links for everybody else who's participating this month, because there are always amazing layouts. Until next time, happy scrapping. Bye!